What's up, guys, and welcome to another edition of Viking Vibes, the St. Joseph by the Sea High School experience, a podcast and web series dedicated to all things St. Joseph by the Sea High School. Today we have a very special student profile. We are going to be joined today by Sal Agro, class of 2024, who has recently made St. Joseph by the Sea history by becoming one of the few students throughout Sea's history to be accepted to West Point. So we're going to talk to Sal about where he came from in grammar school, a little bit of family life, what's going on right now in St. Joe's, because again, he's currently a student at St. Joseph by the Sea High School, going to be graduating in 2024, and also talk to him about what it felt like to get that acceptance to West Point and what the future holds for him. Sal, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What's going on, brother? Now, this is going to be fun, easy, relax. Don't worry. Don't be tense. I promise.
All right, I'll get looser as we go along. I'm just first time on a podcast, and I know Father Riley's going to be watching this later. What I say, it'll be heard. It'll be heard by somebody.
It's true, and it's going to be distributed on the YouTube channel. It's going to be all over the St. Joseph by the Sea website. It's distributed on iHeartRadio, Spotify. We're going to tag everything that's appropriate so that everyone sees it, because the point is we want to highlight students like you, right? The epitome of what it is to be a St. Joseph by the Sea student. So before we talk about all the history making and the accolades of West Point and all that, talk to us about where you grew up. What part of the island you grew up? What grammar schools did you go to?
So I bounced around a little bit. I grew up mostly in Newdorp. I grew up right on the corner of, I don't know what it's called now, but now it used to be Villamonte. I don't even know what it's called now. But
pizzerias change.
Yeah, it's changing all the time. So I grew up in Newdorp. I used to go to Church of St. Charles. That was my parish for a while. So I went to PS50 for school. That was my original grammar school. But halfway into the second grade, I went to St. Patrick's. And St. Patrick's, great time. I loved it there. And that's where I spent the majority of my formative years. That's where I got exposed to that real Catholic school environment. And,
Right.
And that's where I met the nice men and women from the St. Joseph by the Sea outreach program, which I know you want to talk about what got me to go to St. Joe's. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons. We had that outreach program. And I got that exposure to see and what student life was like going as a C student, having the resources and the materials that C students have. And my time at St. Patrick's, that's what really got me exposed.
And that's a great school, by the way. Shout out to St.
Oh,
Patrick's.
yeah, great school, great faculty. I loved my principal there, Mr. Sadowski.
Okay.
And a lot of great memories. It was that outreach program, because what originally made me want to go to C, and I'll stand by this now, that I'll say C probably has some of the best homerooms, like our robotics
specialized homerooms.
I think our robotics homeroom is miles ahead of a lot of other schools, because that was my main interest coming into the school.
Okay.
I was really interested in robotics and programming and engineering and stuff like that. And
so I'm going to stop you for 1 second, not because you're not doing a great job, but because there's a lot of people listening and watching who may not understand these specialized homerooms. So talk a little bit about, you're in robotics, you said?
So right now I'm in the Institute for Sports Medicine.
Okay.
Originally, when I came to visit the school and I saw the robotics homeroom, the robotics lab, I thought it was Farrell at the time. They didn't even have a robotics course, class, homeroom club or whatever. Like, they were just starting as I was in 8th grade.
Right.
The other school that was big for engineering was Tech.
Right.
And I thought our homeroom blew them out of the water. I really did. At least at the time, I thought our homeroom for robotics, our lab was just...
Yeah, they got high-tech stuff. They got great...
No, they have a lot of cool stuff. When I went to go visit, they helped build a car that's solar powered. They had a solar powered car, and I thought that was cool. That was like the one big thing they had. But when I saw what our lab was like and all the stuff we had, I just thought, this is where I'm gonna thrive. Because
so robotics was the thing that kind of drew you in.
What also pushed that desire to want to be part of robotics is that in that outreach, they were teaching us as 8th graders how to program. And they were giving us the Sphero robot, because I was one of those kids that went to those big robotics competitions we have every year.
Like the first robotics competitions and all that stuff?
It definitely wasn't the first one, but it was probably one of the earlier ones.
Oh, so you're talking about the robotics that's hosted at C?
Oh, yeah.
The robotics. Okay, so then you were dealing with who? Mr. Consolmagno, Mr. C?
So at the time, it was Mr. Consolmagno, Mrs. Loria, Mr. P. He hasn't been around for a while now.
Gotcha.
But the three of them would come and they would teach us how to use the iPads. We had the C iPads. I got my iPad when I was in the 6th grade. And
wow, very cool.
And that's what made going to C an easy choice for me, because it was an easy segue.
You were already prepared.
Yeah, it was like being a C student before I even got there. I got in, the lounge was just finished.
So you came in with a lot of new bells and whistles that were
exactly,
there,
yeah.
which made it more appealing. So I want to ask, but I think you answered it, but I was going to say, what was the transition like when you were going to open houses, and talk about that experience? But it seemed like you were set on C from the beginning, but was there anything in the middle that changed when you were going to open houses, 8th grade, making a big decision?
One big thing that would have made me not go to C was I have 3 stepbrothers, and 2 of them at the time were at Xavier.
Got it.
And they
Another
were
great school.
No, it's phenomenal. At the end of the day, I felt like I'd thrive better at sea only because it was close to home and I could spend all my time there.
Right.
My brothers, they spent most of their lives commuting back and forth. My brothers, they played football. And they would get home in the middle of the night and it'd be laid out. They didn't do too good academically, but that's because they had no time to study and sleep and do the stuff they needed to do. And I was like, that can't be me.
Smart decision. So now talk about you're in C, your freshman year, sophomore year. Talk about some of the stuff you got involved in. Like you mentioned the institute. So talk about other stuff, extracurricular activities, any other institutes. What were you involved? I shouldn't say were because you're still a student. What were you involved in your freshman, sophomore year, and what are you currently involved in now?
So freshman, sophomore year, I told you I was in robotics, but at the same time, during COVID, interesting year, we were allowed to get away with a lot of things. So you're only allowed to be at one institute at a time. But during COVID, because no one was checking to see where you are, because they figured if they didn't see you, you were at home.
Right.
But I was bouncing around. I was in the Robotics Institute. I was in the Institute for Scientific Research. And I was on the morning show each morning.
Wow.
My freshman, sophomore year, I was in all those institutes. As far as sports goes, I played football freshman, sophomore year.
Nice.
And I also I played lacrosse and I did indoor track for a brief period of time.
And now, right now, you're a part of a new and exciting program. So I want to talk about that.
Right now.
So let's talk about the new St. Joe's newest program.
The two new things.
You got two? I thought you only had one. What's the second?
So for the institutes, right now I'm in the Institute for Sports Medicine.
Correct. Those are two new things. You're right.
Which, by the way, is phenomenal. I love that institute more than anything. That's by far probably my favorite one that what we ever will have. Because I'm not going to lie, Mr. K, probably the best teacher we have at C.
So talk a little bit about what you're learning and what the Institute's all about, because I believe we actually had him on the show when it first launched, and I believe that this year was the first year that it launched, correct? So what do you learn about? What's the program about?
We learn about everything. We learn X, Y, and Z about sports medicine. So that includes a little bit of anatomy, a lot of major injuries in sports and how they're treated. We've seen a lot of gross videos of surgery and stuff like that.
Trying to keep you healthy, right? And trying to show you what's out there.
We learn about just health and wellness, fitness, and recently we had the careers chapter. So we talked about every single career that there is in the sports medicine field and all the education you would need and how would you go about getting proper prerequisites. If you needed scholarships, how would you go about that? What we're talking about skepticism in the healthcare field. We were talking about Wim Hof the other day, the Iceman, and are these methods we see online, are they helpful? Was it pure? Yeah. So stuff like that. So we're learning about how to find good sources of information and how to implement that in our daily lives and implement that possibly into our future careers. And it's a very informative class.
And it's great to give you access to something that other kids don't have access to, because if it's something you're going to pursue, now you already got a hand.
Not even just access to the knowledge, but also access to all sorts of alumni and people that are working those fields, because we have guest speakers all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Talk about the guest speakers.
We had a chiropractor come who's certified in X, Y, and Z, because he's not just a chiropractor, but he's telling us all about his careers, what education he needed to get, and what his path was like leaving C, because here was a guy that he wasn't the best student. He was an okay student, but he wasn't the best student.
You don't always have to be the best student.
But that was one of the big takeaways in the class, is that you don't need to be the best. You have to be smart about your path. And obviously being the best will help open up different doors, but not that the whole point of the careers chapter and having these guest speakers is to show that there are other doors waiting to be open for you that aren't the obvious ones. Right. And how there's certain niche things in this world where we can all succeed in. There's a lot of demand in the realm of sports medicine.
Yeah, absolutely, because it encompasses so many things that people don't even think of. They take the usual suspects, a personal trainer.
Well, I didn't even know what a sports psychologist was until I did the homeroom. These guys in the NFL, they need
someone to talk to.
They need therapy, yeah, exactly.
I think everybody needs therapy, but that's a different podcast. All right, so you're involved in a lot of great stuff inside the building. Talk about the newest program you're involved with outside the building.
I just joined the rugby team. That is phenomenal. Only existing for less than a month. We already got a roster.
Literally, we didn't even put out the press release yet. That's how fresh that is. So we got that going. But talk to us first.
We already have a roster of almost 60 kids.
That's amazing.
And half of them all play football. So a lot of us don't know how to play the game yet, but we're gonna be killer. We're gonna be killer. We're gonna.
It's like anything else, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of natural talent, and the coaches we have, phenomenal guys. They're great teachers, and it's one of the better sports I've been a part of, because the culture is it's on point. The culture is about coming in, getting better every day, and just having fun. It's truly one of the most fun sports I've ever played. When
we do a profile on rugby, we may have to have you come back, because then we'll just talk exclusively on rugby, because we want to get somebody in here. We want to get the coaches in here talking about that as well. So sports books. Talk about some of the other stuff you're involved with. Anything like Holy Name Society or anything on the outside, volunteer work or anything else, activities inside SC?
So I'm a board member on the Holy Name Society.
Of course you are. Good man.
That's phenomenal. I love doing that. So that's probably one of the big things that West Point won't tell me this, and no other schools are going to tell me this. What do they accept me for? But that's definitely got to be one of the big things that on my resume that stood out, because that's my way of being charitable.
Rounded.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So that's what a lot of the schools look for, that roundedness and that being charitable. And Holy Name Society that's my way of being charitable. And it's honestly, not only is it great for the charity aspect, it's a very fun kind of fraternal organization. We're all brothers in the Holy Name Society. And of course, Father McCarthy's a great moderator, and it's a nice group. It's a
100 years ago when I was in your position and in your shoes at sea, I was in Holy Name too. So it's great. I agree with you 100%. You provided me the perfect segue. This is great because now I wanted to talk about the West Point acceptance. So before we got on, I had mentioned to you Sea grad Matty Caldwell, who actually we had on the show recently. And he was in fact the first St. Joseph by the Sea graduate to be accepted to West Point. And he went on, and now he's currently the CEO of the NHL's Florida Panthers. He took a path and went on and did great things. And that's something that I'm sure you're going to do as well. But before we talk about the future, talk about the day or how you got the acceptance. So I know some of them are via email, some of them are doing packets. How did you get word that you were accepted to West Point, and what'd that feel like?
I got the word 4 times that day.
4 times,
So-
good. That's great.
Before the students actually find out whether or not they get accepted to West Point,
Right.
your congressperson or whoever nominated you,
Correct.
they find out before you.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
if they're willing to share with you that you got in, they'll call you and they'll tell you, or
So
they'll
now,
tell somebody.
who on your behalf was it? Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis?
Yeah, Nicole Matakis, she nominated me. And so my dad texted me middle of the day. I went to my locker, probably third period.
Right.
I got a text from my dad, and it said, the congresswoman wants to talk to you. And I'm like, I have no clue what that means.
Right.
Honestly,
You're
I
like
knew
trying to go to lunch or something.
I
You're like,
knew
all right.
that probably meant that I had something to do with the academies. At the same time, like, when does the congresswoman want to talk to anybody, and why me? I get home and I get on a conference call with her at 3 o'clock, and she's like, oh, I just want to be the first person to let you know that you got in. I'm in Washington right now. Excuse the wind and whatever.
Wow.
And
So what does that feel like? So not only did you get accepted to West Point, you got a FaceTime or a Zoom from Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. So talk about it.
so it was just on call, so she didn't see my face, which is honestly it was for the better, because the face I made was like the face my dad made. So my dad immediately, because he was right next to me during the call, and he just, the wave of pride that went over him in that moment, because I've actually never seen him smile like that in my entire life. My dad made a face that I've never seen before. It was a big moment of relief, because I'm the world's worst procrastinator, and I thought I wasn't gonna get into West Point,
Right.
just because I submitted everything like minutes
At
before it was
deadline.
due.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
all right.
So to start the application process for West Point, you're supposed to start maybe towards the end of your junior year. I started maybe a month or 2 before the deadline. I got into the game late, really
But
late.
it goes to show that the dedication and all the characteristics and qualities that they're looking for, you still exhibit and you still have. So I'm sure if you end up accepting their offer, that they're gonna make sure you do everything in a timely manner. I would almost guarantee it. Based
Oh,
on,
no, I know.
Based
So-
on some of the stuff that Matty Caldwell told us and what they do and how they take care of their students, I'm sure they're gonna put you in line.
So my uncle, he was a Marine, and he told me, you'll be late, but only once.
There
That's
you go.
it.
Only once. That's smart. So now, overjoyed, amazing. How did you personally feel? So now you said your dad was great. Dad was smiling. Obviously, that's a huge thing. What about you? You're like,
Me, I felt like I just deflated, like I just decompressed, because there's the
No
stress
worries.
of just waiting, just the anticipation from waiting to hear from them.
Yeah.
It was over at that
Right.
point. Not only just the anticipation for hearing from them, but just an anticipation for a lot of things in life. 'Cause a lot of kids, they got to worry about debt.
Right.
They got
Yeah,
to
of
worry
course.
about their career path. For me, it's been solved with that.
talk about that. How has it been solved?
So West Point, whoever goes to West Point, no tuition, no room and board, nothing. It's all totally paid for. They get me my uniform, they get me my lunch and dinner, breakfast, everything. As well as, I think I'm not sure if it's weekly or monthly. I'm pretty sure it's monthly. They give you a stipend, a little
Nice.
bit of spending money.
Nice.
And anyone who graduates, they graduate as a 01 in the Army, or
Okay.
whatever branch they choose to go to. I know most West Point students, they end up in the Army. I do know some wind up in other branches. Majority do end up in the Army.
Right.
No, there's no need to search for a job after that.
You're in.
You either get your preferred MOS or you don't, but
Right.
at the end of the day, you'll graduate as a second lieutenant in whatever military branch, probably the Army.
And You said, before we got on, you said that Matt Caldwell reached out to you. Did you get a chance to speak to him?
I did. So
What'd he say?
Manos had called him.
Right.
So Mr. Manos, he had called him, and he sent him my email. And then immediately I get an email from Florida Panthers, and I'm like, oh no, what is it? Big man, congratulations. I was once in your shoes, and if there's anything you want to talk about, I'm your guy. Whatever you need to know.
I would definitely take him up on that offer because he's a phenomenal guy. And like I said, he was on the show recently, and he has gone on to do great things. So definitely reach out to him, stay in touch with him.
I'm probably, he told me, he said, call me once you find out from the Naval Academy, and we'll talk why West Point might be a better option for me or why it might not be.
Right.
One thing I was talking to him about was, because one big concern for me is that going into West Point, so when everyone's going to school closer towards the end of summer, I'm going to essentially basic training July
Boot
1st.
camp.
Yeah, and there's a lot of skills that they ask for at West Point, and I told them, like, as a New Yorker, it's not like we're from the South and we grew up hunting and stuff. So how does it translate for us? Like I'm just assuming this. I don't know. I know for me personally, and I'm guessing for Matt Caldwell only because he's from New York. That
he was
probably not a whole lot of experience with a gun, and probably not a whole lot of experience with land nav. And
I would guarantee that as well.
so I asked him, but these are skills that they ask of you during your, you need to familiarize yourself. And I said, for a lot of these kids, I bet it came naturally. Like these kids that grew up in the South, that they'd probably been hunting and doing stuff like that. So I said to him, how did that work out for you? How did it translate? Did you pick it up? And he told me, oh, no, I sucked at both. It was terrible.
But that's like everything else. You got to learn. And that's one of the things he said in his episode, that nothing he got in life came easy. He had to work hard for everything he got. And there's something to be said about that because same thing. If you pursue the career and your future at West Point, you're gonna have to work. It's not gonna be easy, right? Because you're not gonna be worried about studying for a test in as much as you're gonna be worried about whatever they have in store for you tomorrow at basic training and boot camp 101, right? Because they're gonna physically be doing stuff.
I have no clue what really makes me more nervous because I know as a C student, every kid that I've ever known that's gone to C and come back from college, they all say college is a breeze and that everything is super duper easy. And I know physically, I'm more or less, I feel like I'm confident, I'm ready to rise to the occasion physically, especially having to deal with drill instructors and stuff like that. Because before I got into West Point, I was a poolee in the Marine Corps delayed entry program.
Okay.
And they would bring us out to poolee functions every couple months. And that was my first exposure to real hardcore drill instructors, guys screaming in your face.
It's not like football camp doing suicide.
Oh,
right?
no, it's actually so much scarier and quite frankly fun. There's a weird thrill to it because you're getting every little mistake and every just things that you wouldn't even consider to be wrong. They find everything.
That's their job.
Yeah, and
because they got to make you better.
And it is actually so thrilling. It's a weird experience, and I wish I could describe it to you, but you just got to be there.
Well, exactly. Your face is animated, so we're talking about getting beat up by drill sergeants, and you're like, this is fantastic. So
it's weird.
You're
like
exactly the material they're looking for.
It shouldn't be like fun, and I shouldn't enjoy it. But once you look back, you're like, what the hell just happened?
The ability to go through something like that and come out the other side and be like, I just did that. That's a thrill, right? So you're not enjoying it while they're beating you up, but once you come out of it and you're like, wow, I just did that. How did I do that? Then you can pretty much accomplish anything. Once you get through all that stuff. Talk about now the decision that you have. And I know obviously you haven't made a decision yet, but you're weighing your options as you should. So right now, not sure when this will air, but maybe in a couple of weeks, but right now we're in the beginning of March, right? So you got a couple of months till you graduate. And within these next few months, are you going to be getting acceptances or answers from any other colleges or universities?
So far, only because my stepmom put together the list for colleges I'm applying to. She found. I applied, no joke, probably to 30 schools. Okay. Including the service academies. And I got accepted to almost every single one so far.
Congratulations.
But thank you. But before I was on the St. Joseph by the Sea Instagram, I got into the NROTC program. That's for the Marines. So that was my Marine Corps option. That I don't want to say I knew I was going to get it, but that was the thing I was more confident in. I felt confident that was a scholarship and a program that I was going to be accepted to.
Gotcha.
And I didn't see myself getting accepted at West Point because West Point's so renowned. You feel like you're competing with every single you're competing with the best. You're really
the best
competing.
of the best. That's exactly
so. And that's something that I was going to throw my hat in the rink and try, but I went in there like, all right, if I get in, that's phenomenal. It'll be like winning the lottery. If I don't, all right, shrug it off.
I feel like you're answering the question without answering the question right now by saying that you got in and that you were so excited to get in. So we'll see what happens in the future.
So my point is like West Point was the reach.
Right.
But so is the Naval Academy. I applied at the Naval Academy. So they were both my reach, and I'm still waiting to hear from Naval Academy. The original plan was to get into preferably a school in warmer weather. When I got into Jacksonville University, I got into Florida State University, and I was looking at those schools in Florida. I was like, all right, I'll go do NROTC, go there for free, and enjoy the sunny weather and become a Marine.
It's good that you got a plan, though. See, you're so young, and it's good that you have that plan and foresight to even think about that. Because there's a lot of seniors, and I'm sure some of them right now, that they're like, whatever, I'll figure it out, whatever. But the fact that you have a plan is already putting you ahead of others in your position. So we're going to bring it back because now we're talking about regular schools, right? For lack of a better term, colleges and universities. So talk about the college program at Sea. How did it set you up? Did you get any college credits? And what was that like for you?
So I actually got a lot of college credits. I have no clue the exact number, but I would guess probably somewhere between 30 to 40.
30 to 40 college credits.
Yeah, and they are going nowhere because the West Point.
Obviously, West Point, of course.
West Point's not taking them. But if I were to go anywhere else, I'm losing a minimum of semester, maybe two, possibly. I know a lot of C students, they graduate either a year or two early. I think Mr. DeAngelis and I think Mr. Bajada, they both graduated early.
Right.
And I would recommend to anyone that's planning on going to a quote-unquote normal school.
Yeah, I use that just because I wanted to differentiate them, right? Because everyone knows that West Point's not going to accept them.
In terms of college readiness, I'm not going to really be able to explain to you until I go to college, right? But I feel relatively confident. The decision I made and the schools I applied to, the programs that I applied to. And so we had college and career readiness as a course. And it was mandated by the school. You have to do your own research on schools. You have to more or less find out how to get into college. And
because you don't want to be finding out about this in junior year when you haven't done anything.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So that was a big help because that kind of opened my eyes a little bit to like, all right, here's what needs to be done. If I want to get the careers that I'm interested in, this is the plan of action. Like you said, you brought up, it's good that I have a plan. I wouldn't have been able to strategize my future if I didn't have the exposure. So that was great. And what was great about the school is that it gave me a lot of exposure, especially with talking to guidance counselors, talking to Father Nockton, talking to Mrs. Petrozelli, and then
having access to people.
Exactly. So the support network was great. The support network, and then just one thing I do love that we do at the school is the instant decision day. So that was great.
And Ms. Prospero and Ms. Petrozelli have been building that up every year. What did they have this year? I think like 50 or 60?
They had a lot of schools. I didn't. So the schools that I applied to that they had an instant decision day, I got into St. John's, Wagner, and Seton Hall. But
so let me ask you this. Are there any schools you applied to that you didn't get into?
I'm
just curious, just because everything you're saying is great.
I didn't get a rejection from anybody yet, but I got two deferrals. I got deferred from Binghamton, and I got deferred from Ohio State. Ohio State and Binghamton, they're the only ones that don't want me right now. So maybe next week.
If you decide that you end up going to West Point, I think you just send them a letter in the mail back to the people that sent them. It's all right. I didn't need you anyway. That's what we'll do.
I thought about it.
West Point letterhead.
Which my friend said that you should probably send to these universities, especially the ones that offered you scholarship money, just a polite decline. And I'm like,
You could pick and choose how you want to do that. But so right now, again, I know that you have big decisions ahead of you, but talk about some of the fun stuff, right? So outside of the world of college and acceptances, you've already, like you said, sigh of relief. You've already done everything you need to do. Now you need to make that decision. But what are you doing to finish out the last couple of months at St. Joe's?
Writing papers. No, but besides that, so what I'm doing right now, I'm still continuing to work hard in school. I get tempted all the time, slack off a little bit because what does it matter? But at the same time, I'm trying to graduate with ideal grades because I've always been a good student. I've always had good grades. And I would hate to come home with a report card that my parents were not happy with.
Right. Especially now. It's really got a couple of months. You're going to screw it up now. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. Right now, I'm still working hard in school. I know that once I have to go to plebe summer for West Point, if that's where I wind up going, that's going to be, I hope it's a little bit of fun, but it might be very not fun.
But you said that stuff was fun before. Before you said you like being tortured.
That was a taste.
Right, every day, day in and day out.
That's going to be a six weeks straight. That's what it is. So right now I'm trying to have fun focusing on, obviously, rugby. Because rugby, that's part of my fun for senior year, and that's great. I love being a part of this new team. You brought me out as one of the history makers. Not only am I a history maker in that regard, I'm a history maker that I'm one of the founding members of the.
But see, I didn't know that. Otherwise,
team.
I would have given you a shout out at the beginning. So I will make it clear in the caption of this episode. There's going to be people inevitably listening or watching that might either have kids that are young. There might be 7th, 8th grade students looking or watching this and listening. So you are still young. God bless you. But you've done it, right? You've come through 4 years of St. Joe's. What are some words of wisdom or something you could tell a student in 7th or 8th grade, back when you were in 7th or 8th grade? What's something you could tell them about St. Joe's that is why they should make a selection?
What I would tell them about St. Joe's is that it offers everything that you'd expect and more. And you could become very successful and enjoy your high school experience to the max if you buy in and you embrace everything. If you take up everything that's offered to you. So there's kids at St. Joseph by the Sea that they're not a part of anything. They're not part of any clubs. They're not part of any teams, and they just coasted by. But me, I could tell you confidently that I loved my experience, but that's because I was a part of everything. There's a lot of things I tried out for that I didn't stick with, but I found out what I liked. And there's a lot of things that I love doing, and I can look back at my high school years fondly because I was a part of everything and I embraced what the school had to offer.
You get out what you put in.
Exactly. Right. So I bought into the school's message. We got to recite that mission statement every morning, and you just gotta buy in. And when you buy in and you become part of teams and brotherhoods and sisterhoods, and you develop a very unique and a very enjoyable high school experience. And that would be my words of wisdom. My words of wisdom would be St. Joseph by the Sea, compared to the other schools in the island, we got a lot more to offer. And if you go to the school, you just got to be a part of everything, and you got to just really take up all the opportunities given to you, and you will have the best high school experience possible.
You're the first current student that's going to be graduating we've had on the show. So any words of wisdom for your fellow classmates? Make believe you're the valedictorian. It's graduation day. Any words of wisdom to your friends and classmates that are going to be graduating with you this year?
My words of wisdom to my fellow graduating seniors would be to remember how you got to this point, and don't forget the people along the way. Because one thing someone said to me recently is, what a great accomplishment getting into West Point is. That's your accomplishment. I'm like, It's not just my accomplishment. It's an accomplishment from not just me, but my parents, my school community, my teachers, my friends. Because to be who I am now and to have gotten what I've gotten, it wouldn't have been possible without the help of all the support systems I've had. If I wasn't brought up in the Catholic environment I had, I probably wouldn't have an interest in serving my country and trying to gain something that's deep and fulfilling. I probably wouldn't have the grades and the athletic abilities I have if I didn't have people pushing me and challenging me. So that would be my words of wisdom to the graduating seniors. Don't forget who helped you, and when you're struggling and when you're out there in the world and you're looking for help, remember the people that got you to where you are. Just congratulations for making this far, and I can't wait to see what they'll all become.
So if West Point doesn't work out, you might have a career in politics, just saying, because that was a very well put together speech. So Sal, thank you so much for being here with us. For anyone listening and watching, be sure to like and subscribe to our content. Follow us at Viking Vibes, the St. Joseph by the Sea High School Experience. Hit that like button, share button. Go to josephc.org for more information, and of course, subscribe on our YouTube channel. So once again, Sal Agro, making history. It's 2024, being one of the few students in C's history to be accepted to West Point, and also, I'll add it in here, and also one of the founding members of C's brand new rugby team. So Sal, we wish you luck, nothing but the best in the future, and hopefully after West Point or wherever you decide to go, you come back on the podcast and give us an update as to what's going on in your life.
For sure.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you.